Oh, there's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. This is another book haul filmed on July 2nd, 2021. I hope it gets to you before the year is out. I have such a backlog of these. First up, we have a translated novel from the Bengali language, a novel from India. The Runaway Boy by Manoranjan Byapari, translated by V. Ramaswamy. Originally published in 2008 in Bengali, first published in English in 2020. I don't remember why I got this exactly, but everybody has kind of been talking about Byapari recently. He's published a lot, 12 novels and over 70 short stories. This concerns a runaway boy in the mid-20th century India, important themes of hunger, caste violence, and communal hatred. Sounds heavy, sounds right up my alley. Now, I've actually forgotten, but I think this is a Blame It on Britta purchase. This was one of her books to be hauled by you in the videos a month or two ago. Caul Baby by Morgan Jerkins. Absolutely stunningly gorgeous cover, which is probably the main reason I bought it. This is a 2021 book. Jerkins is a Harlem-based author, and it is about an African-American woman who is having trouble bearing a child, and she seeks out, I'm not sure what to call it, but so as to avoid saying the wrong thing about what kind of person this is, I'll read this sentence. To protect the child she's now carrying, she turns to the Melancons, an old and powerful Harlem family known for their Caul, a precious layer of skin that is rumored to hold miraculous healing properties. So I don't know what you would call that kind of thing, but that kind of thing is a big thing in this novel, and that sounds fabulous. So now that I've given you that much of a synopsis of what's the premise, here are the first few sentences. Something was bound to happen to Lila's baby, and everyone from the pews of Abyssinian Baptist down to the northern shore of Central Park knew it. One of the last vestiges of the black elite in Strivers Row, she was the only one whose brownstone was not punctuated with the sounds of pitter-pattering feet or wails in the dead of night. The first few times Layla became pregnant, she couldn't wait to tell everyone who crossed her path. Then, weeks later, some of those same people would casually ask for an update, and she'd reply, her face crestfallen, her posture slouched. This is a novel that I bought solely because I think I had it on my TBR from years ago, couldn't remember why, and then I could buy it online, brand new, for dirt cheap, and that is The Chameleon by Samuel Fisher. I believe it was a 2018 novel. He is a UK writer, bookseller, and publisher. He is a director of the publisher Peninsula Press, and to his credit, this novel is published by a different one, not his own, Salt Publishing. It's his debut, and now that I've read the back, John is infinite. He can become any book, any combination of words, every thought, act, and expression that has ever been or ever will be written. Now, 800 years old, John wants to tell his story. I think I should have done a little more due diligence before buying it, but as well, give it a try, right? Next, a fairly contemporary novel from Russia, Vladimir Sorokin's The Blizzard, translated from the Russian by Jamie Gambrell. It's about a doctor on an important journey through the dark winter night. He was born in 1955. That's what he looks like. He lives in Moscow, and I'm trying to decide whether I will Google him to find out what he thinks of Putin before or after I read it. Because if he likes Putin, I may not read it. This one sounds like a scream. It is a novel set in Scotland by a German writer and translated into English. The Peacock by Isabel Bogdan, and I attended the book launch on Zoom of this, translated from the German by Annie Rutherford. The translator, the publisher, and Isabel Bogdan herself were there, and it sounded really fun. I'd already ordered a copy before that because it just sounded so interesting. Anything Scotland, I'm into German literature, I'm into Scottish stuff, so am I into peacocks? Well, time will tell, because this is set on a dilapidated stately home in the Scottish Highlands, And it features a rogue peacock and a group of bankers on a team, and I think they're German bankers, on a team building trip. So this is some kind of a team building retreat thing. And here are the first couple opening sentences. One of the peacocks had gone mad, or maybe he just couldn't see very well. At any rate, he suddenly regarded anything blue and shiny as competition on the marriage market. So maybe there's a blue kimono in the mix. Next, a debut novel from America by a Vietnamese-American writer, Things We Lost to the Water by Wynne. And it is about a Vietnamese woman, presumably, but I don't know for sure, one of the boat people, refugee, who arrives in New Orleans in 1979 with her 2 young sons. No job, no home, worried about her husband, who's still back in Vietnam, and the story goes from there. Here are the opening lines. The heading is August 1979. New Orleans is at war. The long howl in the sky. What else can it mean? Huang drops the dishes into the sink and grabs the baby before he starts crying. She begins running toward the door, but then remembers, this time, another son. She forgets his name temporarily. The howl is so loud. What's important is to find him. I've heard good things about it. Adam of Memento Mori is always, I don't know if he's complaining or just satirizing, but he often comments about the strange, square, boxy shape of the books by Archipelago Books, and I kind of think he has a point, because here is one, and, a regular-sized bookmark doesn't fit, so it's just kind of a weird shape. Anyway, the book itself sounds really interesting. If You Kept a Record of Sins by Andrea Bajani, translated from the Italian by Elizabeth Harris, with an afterword by Edmund White. I also attended a Zoom event. Attend is not the right word. I watched. I was, dialed into a Zoom event with the author and maybe not the translator, with the author, who spoke pretty good English. And this novel focuses on a mother-son relationship. The mother, the Italian mother, leaves her son in Italy to go start a business in Romania. So a lot of the story happens in Romania. That sounded very interesting. And this is a 2021 release, the translation. The opening paragraph is stunning. I think it happened to you too, the first time you arrived. That a man was there, waiting for you, just past the baggage claim exit, with your name on a sheet of white paper. And he studied the faces, one by one, trying to guess which face went with his sign. The man waiting for me pressed against the barrier, raising his sign higher than all the others, and those signs waving around made it feel almost like a protest rally. Then we recognized each other. I walked toward him, and he folded the sheet of paper over twice, and it disappeared into his breast pocket. Your first and last name had been written there, like you were the one who'd arrived, and not me, who'd come all this way to see you put underground. Oh my goodness, oh my! Next is a novel. It's a debut novel from a British writer, Kololo Hill by Neema Shah. I know Eric Carl Anderson was a big fan, and it may well have been on his channel that I found out about it. And it's a gorgeous cover. She was born to Indo-African parents who, if their story follows closely the plot of this novel, went into exile in the UK from Uganda, where they had lived until 1972, when Idi Amin issued a decree that all Ugandan Asians must leave the country. So that is this family story. How closely that follows her family story, of course I don't know. This is a novel by a writer who was born in 1920 in what was then Czechoslovakia, but is now Ukraine. The Trap. It's actually 2 novellas in one bind-up. I'm not a big fan of more than one work of longer fiction in a bind-up, but I can deal, people. The Trap by Ludovic Bruckstein. And translated from the... what language would they be written in? Translated from the Romanian. Oh, come on! This fellow is just... he gets around. So he was born in Czechoslovakia, which is now Ukraine, and he writes it Romanian. That is fabulous. Translated from the Romanian by Alistair Ian Blyth. These novellas depict rural life in the Carpathians around the time of the Second World War. I'm actually not going to read the opening lines. I'm going to read a couple lines that are in the third paragraph on page 1 because they have a standalone vitality. But the man is on a train crawling eastward. And then this. The war was over. What joy, said Ernst to himself sardonically. His anger had since evaporated. What else could he do except be angry or not be angry? He could change nothing. Absolutely nothing. Translated a German novel, King of China by Tilman Rammstedt. Translated from the German by Katy, Derbyshire. A German family give their grandfather the trip of a lifetime and all expenses paid holiday to a destination of his choice. And this elderly German man chooses China and asks his son or his grandson, I'm not sure which, to accompany him, and that's the story. Oh, that sounds pretty interesting. Here's the opening paragraph. My grandfather was dead by the time I got his second last postcard, but I couldn't have known that. I'd put it aside unread, just as I'd put all his previous postcards aside unread. Almost every day they lurked in my letterbox amid the bills and circulars, and then formed an increasingly precarious pile under my desk, which I covered with an old newspaper. Not that it helped much. I knew perfectly well what was hiding underneath. If I wasn't reading 27 books right now, I would just keep going with this. That sounds really interesting. And I thought when I bought this that this was an African-American novel. In fact, it's an African-Canadian novel. No Crystal Stair by Mairuth Sarsfield. And it's a Quebec writer. Sarsfield was born and bred in Montreal, has lived all over the world. She's won a bunch of awards. I can't tell by the name of them if they are literary awards or what. But she now lives on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. And this is a novel about black people living in Canada and how racist Canada is. Go figure. And this is a Blame It on Kim of Middle of the Book March book. Greenwood by Michael Christie. She has been raving about this, and I couldn't not get a copy to see for myself. I might save it until Springathon or something like that next year, or I might not be able to wait that long. He is a Canadian writer, and I'd never heard of him until this American booktuber started singing his praises. What's wrong with this picture? I think it's his debut. No, it's not. He lives in BC, and this is about trees. I don't think you need anything more than that. I wasn't a fan of bark skins or the overstory, but I'm interested in trees, so I hope this might be the tree novel for me. It's got a beautiful cover, and some of the illustrations inside are fabulous. Well, now I have to check it out. Last year, I finally read Revolutionary Road, and oh my god, what an amazing novel. So on the basis of how much I love that, I picked up a short story collection by Richard Yates, 11 Kinds of Loneliness. I pre-ordered this and got it soon after its publication, and for some reason never got around to hauling it until now, because I've had it for a few months. That is the anthology Queer, LGBTQ, Writing from Ancient Times to Yesterday. Edited by Frank Wynne, who also does translations. This is a doorstopper of a book. First I was a little put off because it seemed like it was all excerpts from longer works, and that doesn't work for me, but I looked at it the other day more closely, and in fact, no. Only some of them are. The others are short stories, poetry, complete texts. And yeah, from all over the world. We've got Chinese, Russian, American, Spanish, Canadian, everywhere. But a lot of international stuff, going back to Shakespeare, the Bible, Sappho, a lot of names I don't recognize, so that sounds fabulous. Well, hello. Here it is 6 months later, approximately December 6th. I was just wrapping up the edits to my July book haul whenever I filmed this, and I have deleted a handful of ones that I've already read or whatever, so it's too short. So I'm adding 2 more at this late date. One of them is from Barbados. How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House by Sherry Jones, and I think this is her debut. Lots of people talked about it earlier this year. It's just a 2021 publication, but fairly early in the year. I believe it was Scott's review on Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, but it might have been Nell's, one of them. They are, in fact, one person, aren't they? Yes, it was published in February, and that review sold me. So I ordered it, and it's set in Barbados, and the protagonist's grandmother, the protagonist's name is Lala, and her grandmother is Wilma, and she tells the story of the one-armed sister, and it's a cautionary tale. That's all I need to note. Here is the opening paragraph from 1979 in the prologue. Lala comes home and Wilma is waiting, having returned early from visiting Carson at the hospital. Wilma is still dressed in her going-out clothes, one of the outfits she prefers to be seen in by strangers. A lilac, steam-pleated skirt that falls just below her knees, a pale, aquamarine silk blouse tucked into the waist with a broad purple belt, and a navy cloche hat that once belonged to her mother. When Lala walks through the door, Wilma is standing on the stone floor of the kitchen, arms akimbo, eyes wide with relief. "Where you was, Stella, is almost 8:30. And this is by an author who writes in German, Fleur Yaki, but I don't know anything about this author. A Swiss author, okay, who writes in Italian. Oh my goodness, okay. Prolocerca by Fleur Yaki, and translated from, I guess, Italian by Alistair McEwen. I don't know anything about her, but it's about time that I found out, and I snatched up this little novella that was originally published, 2001. Okay. She is fairly content. Oh, she was born in 1940. For some reason, I thought she was dead and had written much earlier than that. The narrator is 15 years old, and the other character is her distant, financially ruined, yet somehow beloved father, Johannes. And they go on a cruise. That's all we need to know. Let's see. I think this one, the opening sentence will suffice. Many years have gone by, and this morning I have a sudden desire. I would like my father's ashes. Okay, need to check that out. Thanks for watching.